Now let's go to the southwest of Johannesburg, where water is still being restored to several areas after a major power outage that affected Rand Water's Eikenhof pump station left many residents without supply. An outage at City Power's Orlando Power Station on Thursday impacted both Rand Water and Johannesburg water infrastructure. No water could be pumped from the Eikenhof station, and this in turn has affected Joburg Water's reservoirs. Let's find out how repairs are going with City Power's spokesperson, Mangena, who joins us live now via Zoom. Isaac, welcome and good evening. How far are repairs to the... First, let's start with the Orlando Power Station.
Good evening and good evening to the viewers. The repairs at our substation basically went well, and we managed to basically restore electricity to the residents yesterday. You remember that we had that fire which was caused by vandalism and theft that was happening at Soweto substation, and it basically plunged most of the bigger substations further downstream, south of Johannesburg, including Eikenhof substation, which basically supplies electricity to Rand Water Board, and also several other suburbs, including Hest Hill, Industrial, Mansfield, Eldorado Park, and so forth. So we managed to basically restore electricity around midday on Thursday, and we restored even the Rand Water Board. Only Soweto substation is still off currently as I'm talking to you, and it affects electricity to other essential services such as Baragwanath Hospital and the whole health precinct around that area, including the government mortuary and also the military barracks nearby, but also the residents of Pimville Extension 9 and also even part of Orlando and Klipspruit. They are currently off, but as I'm talking to you now, Rand Water started pumping water around midday yesterday on Thursday.
Thanks for that update, Isaac. I imagine a resident who's watching would want to know how long they should expect the completion of repairs to take place.
The completion of the repairs, we're expecting that they will go about, yesterday we put a timeline of about 7 days, but because of the extra work that we managed to put, especially today, because of there was little disruption. So we managed to basically ensure that we built the 12 panels that were basically raised down by the fire on Thursday, and we managed to basically also start with the trenching, where we're gonna lay the new cables and then do the linking of those cables. Then we'll do the tests, and all of these things may actually take another day or two. So we're expecting that in the next maybe about 52 hours, we can be able to basically ensure that we restore electricity. We have already communicated to the community. The councillors are already aware of our predicaments. The hospital, Baragwanath Hospital, we asked them to basically ensure that they've got a backup to ensure that they can still provide that essential service of health to the patients there. So we are really sorry about this inconvenience. Unfortunately, the issue of vandalism and theft of our infrastructure is a big one across the city of Johannesburg, and that's why we've always been calling for extra resources to basically deal with this, because of, as you can imagine, the kind of impact that it has on the economy, that it has on the essential services. As I'm talking to you now, some parts of Johannesburg do not have water because of the impact of that vandalism that happened and affected Rand Water. And as you know, in terms of the water situation, it's unlike electricity, which can go off now and come back. With water, it will take long. So the electricity went off around 2 on Thursday morning, and it was never felt until probably around afternoon yesterday. And after we have restored, people may not even feel that we have actually restored electricity, but with the water, you still have to pack up some pressure inside the pipes before they can actually basically stabilize. So I know that our colleagues at Joburg Water have already issued statement also indicating the kind of work that they're actually doing to ensure that they fill some of the pumps that were basically affected by this outage.
In addition, Isaac, to the big outages like the one you've just mentioned, Orlando, You continue to receive hundreds of outages. You mentioned over 300. That's just today. Please help me paint that picture for the residents.
In fact, we've got about this evening when we closed with about 2,100 outage calls from customers. This is a huge improvement from about 4,000, 5,000 that we had last week. You'll remember we had huge backlog due to the inclement weather that we are currently finding ourselves in, but also the higher stages of load shedding that really did not assist us in terms of most of the work and operations of City Power, especially in terms of doing maintenance, the much needed maintenance on our network, because of the sustained impact of load shedding that happened this year was so big that we basically lost most of our infrastructure. As I'm talking to you now, we're sitting at about 500 plants that are out of service. Under normal circumstances, it's supposed to be 50, but because of load shedding, we are actually sitting at around 500 plants that are out of service, and it's purely because of during load shedding we're not really able to basically fix our equipment or do any maintenance because of safety reasons. But the reprieve that we got this week, whereby during the day we were not load shed, actually assisted us to ensure that we deal with most of the backlogs that we had, but also in terms of the new contractors that we basically brought on board from the beginning of June. They basically came and hit the ground running and assisted us in terms of reducing some of the backlogs, and assisted by our internal resources, the technicians that we have internally, we managed to basically ensure that we have the outages from the over 4,000 that we had, at least at the beginning of this week, to about 2,000 that we're currently having. It's still a lot of outages, but the team is hard at work on the ground to ensure that we deal with all these backlogs and those that do not have electricity to ensure that they've got electricity.
And of course, Isaac, the team on the ground is not without any challenges when they go into these areas. Talk to me about how it is with responding to areas where people are not paying for electricity use. I know there was a refusal. Has that encouraged more customers to pay? What would you say?
Look, I think the call that we made to customers to ensure that they pay for their electricity has actually bore some fruits, and I think it also got assisted by the call that was made by the MMC of both infrastructure, the MMC that is responsible for City Power, Councillor Jack Squire, and also the MMC of Finance, Councillor Dada Morero, who actually went out the past week on a campaign to basically call on residents to ensure that they assist the city to keep their services alive, to ensure that they get those services from the city. And the only way to do this is for people to basically start paying for their electricity, to start paying for the services, water services, refuse removals, and so forth. Otherwise, that's why we are not even able sometimes to basically buy material. As I'm talking to you now, City Power is sitting at about 9 billion in the red, and that is a lot of money, and most of this money is basically the money that is basically owed to City Power. And after that call, we basically saw most residents of the city of Johannesburg coming through saying, please, we want to basically ensure that we fix our meters, ensure that our bypass meters are connected properly, and let's fix also the billing system, and we will be able to pay for electricity. And most of those actually are even coming from those non-affluent areas like Alexandra, and even some of the areas like Vlakfontein and so forth, who basically said they basically want to start paying something because of they're already seeing that some of their attitude towards electricity is basically they're impacting on service that we're supposed to basically ensure that we give them. So we really appreciate this, and we believe that with more of this kind of behavior change from our residents, we will basically be get somewhere. And really, it was not something that we were supposed to basically even do to force residents to pay for services. I don't think DSTV forces most of these residents to pay for their service at the end of the month, because they know that immediately when on the first of every month, if they did not pay their subscription, they will get cut. And I think we don't want to get to a situation where even at the city we keep on basically going around disconnecting people because of the owe. But what is worrying it's really the fact that most of those that are actually owing us are the people that actually have the means to pay for the services. I'm talking about the businesses here. I'm talking about key customers, bigger businesses, and even your townhouses and so forth. So you can realize that you've got people that actually have got money to pay for these services, but they don't. And I think our campaign that we kicked off early this year, where we went out to disconnect several businesses, actually paid off. And you realize even when you get to the gate of those businesses and you tell them that you are disconnecting them, 1 million rands would come out there and there on the spot, and they'll pay for that service. So it means that money was there, basically just waiting for City Power to come knocking. But we really encourage more and more of our customers to basically ensure that they pay for the services, so that we can be able to give them uninterrupted electricity, safe for load shedding.
And today, Isaac, you had to withdraw some of your employees from Alexandra. I mean, what was behind that?
Yes, we basically were forced to withdraw, and unfortunately this is a sad part about it, because it's something that it keeps on recurring in our services, whereby our technicians are basically attacked by the communities that they are meant to serve. So in Alexandra, our teams were basically working at Alexandra substation. They were basically dealing with some of the outage backlogs and also implementing some of the capex projects in that area to ensure that we stabilize the network and provide electricity to the residents. And some of the residents from an area called River Park are alleged to have basically disrupted some of these repairs at the Alexandra substation, and in fact they assaulted some of the technicians and also threatened some of those technicians. And as such, we decided as City Power to protect the infrastructure, but also to protect the lives of our technicians. We decided to pull out of that area, and it means that the residents that are supposed to get the service from City Power are not able to get it because of the actions of few people. And we call on the law enforcement agencies to ensure that they basically arrest those that have actually assaulted our technicians, because no one has got the right to basically, whether how angry you are, no one has got the right to assault municipal employees who are basically there to provide service. And I think this is something that is worrying, as I mentioned earlier, because we have seen a lot of increase in the attacks on our technicians. Most of them have had their toolboxes, step ladders, and even laptops and even cell phones stolen from them. And that's why we have actually reduced the response to outages at night because of the safety concerns that we basically have. One of our technicians was stoned in Hillbrow and spent about a month in ICU in a hospital in Johannesburg. And he was basically just there to basically ensure that he does his work and he fixes. And that's why areas like Hillbrow, GP's Town, and even Alexandra, we don't respond to outage call at night. And it's inconveniencing to the other residents who basically need this service. And because of the actions of the few, you basically have a situation where we are not actually responding to some of these issues.
Sure, that's City Power's spokesperson, Isaac Mangena. He's also a former eNCA colleague right here many years ago.